So what we're going to do now is create a new lesson in the theory handbook, and um, first job is to make a page for that lesson to sit inside of. So I'm going to go across to the right hand side, click on pages, and the lesson that we're going to make for this example is going to be in Unit 201. So I click on the drop down menu for 201, and I've just got to copy one of these pages. Doesn't matter which one, they're all the basic format is the same for all of them. So I'm just going to go down to 2.4, click on the ellipsis and duplicate that page. I'm going to rename it now, so I'm going to call that lesson 4.1, sorry, 4.1. That's the lesson. Okie dokie. So the page that's highlighted in blue is the one that you're on. So this is Unit 201, and it's going to be lesson 4.1. So I've got to make some changes up here. So let's get rid of that. So 4.1, and it's not going to be health and safety legislation anymore. So what I'm going to do now, to see what I'm actually working on, go to the qualification handbook, and I'm basing these lessons straight on the off the topics in the City and Guilds qualification handbook. Now you might have a different way of formatting things and organising, but this is just what's working here. So under Unit 201, I've got two topics. 4.1 is purpose and materials of substructure. So you can copy that straight across. Copy it and bung that in there. So that's my title sorted out. Then I want an icon for it. And if I just go back to page, go back to page 20, the actual unit homepage 201, just show you something. So you can navigate by the top menu across here. We've also put buttons so people can see where they are a bit easier and navigate a bit easier. So each of these images is a button, and what I've been doing is trying to make sure that the button here matches the image on the page that they go to. So you click on a picture of some foundations, you land on a page with some foundations, you know you're in the right place, because it's quite a big website, and I suppose anything that makes it a bit easier to find your way around, a bit more familiar, is going to be good. So that's what I've been doing. It's not essential, but it's what I've been doing. So I want to find this picture and pop that on my new lesson page. So I'm going back to that lesson page, and I'm going to get rid of this picture and replace it with the image of the foundations that we've got there. So I've been keeping, just because it helps me keep things organised, I've just been keeping all my images in a fairly easy to find logical order. So Unit 201, that's just how I'm keeping my images. Everyone works differently, but this is just because I've got a very random brain. I need to keep all the stuff around me really organised, so that's what I've been doing. And all the images that I'm using in this unit are going to be somewhere in here. There you go. So that's that one. Open that, and that's my new image. So the introduction is just some blah, just to tell the learners what they're going to be learning about. So I'm just going to write something there. I'm going to pause the video because you don't need to see me watching that. So I've done the introduction, basically found a useful link from a construction website and copied the gist of the. So I've written a brief introduction, just outlining what the main terms are, or the main term in this case, what is a substructure. I've also put in there just a little link to a useful website that I found that explains it in a bit more detail. So that's that. That's the introduction. Shouldn't be long. Just gives them a basic idea. Next thing we've been doing is some personal targets. So it's basically, you know, pass, merit, distinction, good, better, best. Most of our qualifications being sort of divided into what our students need to get, what the better students will get, and what the very best will do. And this is just about setting some personal targets. So again, you don't need to see me do this. I'll just sort of so I'll put some personal targets in there. This is the sort of thing that you imagine the learners checking out themselves and maybe using as a basis for discussion. You can have a professional discussion based on some of these, especially the sort of better or best outcomes. So starting with something where they can basically list, they can remember what they've learned. This is where they can maybe they can demonstrate a grasp of the basic principles of what they've learned. And this last one, the best, is just based on the idea that they can take what they've learned and put it in a different context and problem solve based on that. They can actually put it to use, apply it. So that's what that's all about. And again, it doesn't have to be in there. This isn't an essential part of the website. It's just something that we've been using and I think might be quite useful and effective. So the range then is basically what we've been doing here is taking the range of learning from the handbook. So in this case, just straight to the handbook, we've got they need to cover, the range that they need to cover is types and purposes of foundations, characteristics of the following materials. So I'm just going to copy those and bung them in. And I've been using open open formatting for the website. So taking the full stops off the end of sentences just looks a bit tidier on a website. Personal choice. It's not essential. But if you're just using the website as a template, then using that open formatting will just keep it consistent. Okay. So that's that. And then how this lesson links to your career. I suppose again that's just a bit of blah. So that this bit is sort of showing how it links to the qualification. This is how they might use it in their working life. So just right. So I've just put a bit in about how foundations and understanding foundations might affect their working life. So just trying to make it seem relevant, really. And obviously, for a lot of trades, that's if you're a plasterer or a painter, you might not think that that's going to be very relevant. But I've made the point that if anyone wants to progress to site management sort of roles, then they need to know the whole process. Or if you're working for a small building company, you might quite likely end up involved in activities that aren't to do with your trade. It's that sort of thing anyway. It's getting that. It's just trying to make it relevant. So that's that. Next thing we're going to do is put in the main activity. So click on the drop down menu for that. So this is activity, it's not activity 2.1, it's activity 4.1. And it's not building controls and regulations. It's purposes and materials of substructure. Bit of copying and pasting. And then clicking to access this activity. So this one we're kind of fortunate in that there's a ready-made activity. So I'm going to go to Smart Screen, City and Guild Smart Screen, and I know because I've checked the mapping document that they've actually got an activity. They've got like a pre-built interactive activity that matches directly to this lesson. So I'm just going to go to that. So e-learning modules and its foundations. So I'm ready to enter that activity. So click on the link there, copy it, I'm just going to make that the link here. So highlight that, click on the link, and here we go. Okay, bit of introduction to it, just so they know what they're doing. So find out the basics Okay, so that should all be ready to go. You notice I'm not saving; it just automatically saves as we go. So that's that. So that's easy. There's probably a couple of hours work in building one of those activities. So if it's always worth checking the mapping document. If there's one pre-made, don't reinvent it. Just use the one that's already there. Obviously, these are licensed, so as you get to the end of the year, ready to start a new year, just make sure that you've still got the license, because next year, if you haven't got the license, these are going to be dead links. So just something to think about for that. So that should keep most learners busy, having to think about this, reading the introduction, maybe clicking on that link. You know, if we prime them, if we teach them to take a bit of time over this, that should keep them busy for an hour or so. This activity, you know what, they can click through it in a couple of minutes if they want to, but to do it right, that should take up, you know, half an hour. So we've got about half a lesson there. So, but we want to flesh it out. We've got a lot of theory hours, a lot of independent learning hours to kill at home. So find out more is basically just an easy way to create some exercises that we don't really have to mark, we don't have to supervise, but it should keep the learners, give them a bit of strength and depth, especially the keener ones, the ones that are actually bothered about finding out, and yeah, give them some research, personal research to do. So it's just things like, for example, if you've got a good link, a good video, ask them to watch that, and then think about the answers to X, Y, and Z question. Or if you've got a newspaper article about, I don't know, if in this case, you know, foundations that went wrong, somebody that put foundations in the building fell over. Why did that happen? That sort of thing. Links to NHBC standards, approved documents, that sort of thing. It's the idea is that it's a bit of stretch and challenge, I suppose, for the more able learners, and maybe just something to do, something to just try and egg them on a little bit. The lads that perhaps need a little bit of persuading or haven't got a huge amount of ability. It's something for them to sort of have a go at, maybe come back and ask. It gives you something to talk about in the drop-in sessions as well. If you're trying to do a bit of face-to-face learning, sometimes you think, well, what are we going to do here? Do I just show them a PowerPoint? Well, if they've already done some of their own personal research, given it a bit of a shot, but they've got some questions, well, it's something useful to talk about in those sort of face-to-face team meeting style sessions. That's the idea anyway. So that's just my thoughts on it. Okay, so I've found some interesting sort of background information, and I've explained why it's there. So I've just sort of explained so the learners get it that they've got the key facts from that activity above. This is broadening the range of their knowledge and giving them a bit of background, what it looks like. So what I've done, I've found a news article about why buildings collapse, and there's a specific news article. These are just like a page, like a 3-minute read. One from recently and locally, foundation problems, why they need to get it right, and a video showing someone actually setting out foundations for a small extension. So a little bit of background, what it actually looks like in practice, and then where they can find the facts. So NHBC standards and approved documents and HSE guidance. So that's pretty much filled it out. The only bit that's left to do is the What Have You Learned, which is the quiz, which I'll cover in the next short video.